Hey everyone. So, I know this is a little bit of a tangent to what I usually upload because I would like to talk about a situation that I guess just got better that I was keeping an eye on for quite a long time now. So, the situation I'm talking about is the whole Nintendo lawsuit against Pocket Pair for patent infringement and how one of their patents that they filed was rejected by the Japanese Patent Office. And this video just addresses like my opinion with regards to the whole news about it and probably some of my worries and how I think that Nintendo losing this lawsuit will benefit everyone. Anyway, let's get right into it. Actually, before I start, I would like to point out I am not a lawyer and this is not legal advice. And while I will talk about the law, most specifically the Patent Act throughout this entire video, whenever I do talk about that, please do bear in mind that this is just my interpretation of the law. This should not be taken as a fact. After all, this is just the opinion of some random dude in the internet. And with that out of the way, let's talk about more about this lawsuit. So, if you're somehow not aware with regards to the lawsuit I'm talking about, Nintendo, as of last year, I think September of last year, decided to sue Pocket Pair for patent infringement. And coincidentally, it is also in the same year where they accelerated these patent applications as well, as a response to the immense success that Pocket Pair has received due to palworld releasing as an early access on Steam, reaching 8 million downloads in the first week alone, and just on Steam. So this is Nintendo reacting to Palworld as a legitimate competitor to their biggest franchise, which is Pokemon, but not in a good way. Now, there is more to this story. However, for the sake of time, I would highly suggest watching other content creators about this or reading some articles about this. You will find loads of channels talking about this, from large channels like Some Ordinary Gamers or Linus Media Group to even smaller channels, because this legitimately shocked the entire gaming community to its core. Also, I would just like to point out, Pokemon was also inspired by Shin Megami Tensei and, if I recall correctly, Dragon Quest as well. So this is actually quite hypocritical of Nintendo. Unfortunately, I'm not necessarily surprised about this because this is just big corpo trying to destroy the little guys, where if they took inspiration from someone, that is fine. However, if someone took inspiration from them, that becomes a problem. Essentially saying that rules are for thee, but not for me. Moving on. So, according to Nintendo Life, and no, I did not pick this article because it had the word Nintendo on it. It is simply because it was the first article that showed up when you search this in Google, and the other news outlets are essentially what I would say is my high school essay project for English class, which is essentially copy, modify it, cite it, or spice it up a bit. Pretty much do whatever you can just to get your grades up. Trying to avoid plagiarism as much as possible, even though the topic in hand is not supposed to be analyzed because there's nothing to analyze, i.e. it's that whole Kowalski meme again. Anyway, the Japanese Patent Office issued a notice of reasons for the refusal of one of their patents, which would be patent number 2024-031879, citing that there were already prior art, or in this case prior games, that used this exact mechanic that Nintendo is trying to apply for a patent, and was deemed that anyone who have any idea on this field could have probably made the same mechanic as well. And some of the submitted evidence include Art, Craftopia, which is also a Pocket Pair game that was made back in September of 2020, Monster Hunter 4, Kankule, which is surprising because I didn't know Kankule had that, but I only played for 2 hours, so meh. And ironically, Pokemon Go of all things. I play Pokemon Go every day. So you're telling me that the Japanese Patent Office used Pokemon to destroy Pokemon? That is some Thanos level shit, which would make sense because the idea of capturing a living being using whatever capturing tools like a net isn't exactly new. I mean, we have been throwing nets into the ocean for quite a long time. Don't even get me started on land. And before you say, oh, that's in real life, not in video games, again, there are prior games before Pokemon that use this exact mechanic. And if there are any of you who think like, oh, it's the first person point of view that they're fighting for, it's that version. Again, the Japanese Patent Office have provided you the list of games that they use as evidence. It is with these reasons why the Japanese Patent Office believes that the patent encroaches on Article 29, Paragraph 2 of the Japanese Patent Act, which, looking at the act itself, that if the patent being filed is so broad that anyone could have made that exact mechanic or software or whatever, and they have no prior knowledge to one another, the patent would not be granted. And honestly, while I was reading this law, I think Article 29, Paragraph 1 also applies to the whole lawsuit right about now, but I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. Also, I'm just simplifying this for myself because that's how far my legalese understanding goes. So if you're smarter than I am with regards to the law, I will be putting, again, all of the resources down in the description down below, especially this one as well, so you can read it for yourself. Now, the thing that worries me is this part in the article. So the thing that worries me is how they did say that this rejection is non-final. That means Nintendo can reapply for the patent with some modifications onto it. And if there is a company in this godforsaken planet we call Earth that has the time, resources, and the pettiness to do that, it would be Nintendo and their lawyers. I mean, there is a reason why they have a website dedicated to keeping track of all of their lawsuits. Because Nintendo lawyers will try to find a needle in a giant haystack just so that they can use it and use it as a weapon against their opponents. Even if it is against a smaller company who has no idea about Nintendo whatsoever, they don't give a shit, man. So essentially, I think Nintendo will reapply, and at this point, I don't think it's a matter of will, I think it's a matter of when and how would they do it. But there is a silver lining in all of this. Even though I'm saying this like as if the outcome looks bleak, the truth is, I think there is hope for Pocket Pair to win this lawsuit. While the rejection is non-final and the patent in question isn't exactly the one being used in the lawsuit, the patents that are being used in the lawsuit are pretty much in the same group, which is based on the patent 7505852. And here is the flowchart that gives you a visual idea of what's going on. I know it's in Japanese. In fact, the article where I'm reading that I found this from is also in Japanese, and I can only probably read one or two symbols in hiragana and katakana combined. But the rough idea is that this one is no longer valid. This could impact the rest of them in the future. In the immediate, it's currently doing squat. In the future, this might become the silver bullet that Pocket Pair is needing. And maybe in the immediate, because unfortunately the US Patent Office have approved one of the patents that Nintendo filed in the US. And it is just as broad as ever. And as for this last part, this is primarily for those hardcore Nintendo or Pokemon fans. And this is not just limited to them. Anyone could weigh in on this. It's just that we already know the benefit Nintendo will be getting, and unfortunately that is the biggest, and I mean biggest problem, because we already know what would happen. Every other gaming company in the world will start patenting their own shit, and then it'll be just the end of creativity as we know it. And if there's a game developer, most likely an indie dev, but any game developer who decided to use this mechanic and didn't realize it was patented, they're gonna get a lawsuit from Nintendo, or they have to pay royalties. And that would be the end of all creative liberties, and probably in all forms of media, because it is just a slippery slope. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we already know what is the benefit for Nintendo and the negatives for the rest of the world. So this time around, I will be looking it into the eyes of a Nintendo fan and how this would impact them in the good way. Because if they punish the consumer for their own fuck ups, that is Microsoft level of stupid. If you don't know what I'm talking about, take a look at Game Pass. They're doing this because not a lot of people play Call of Duty or buy Call of Duty. And guess where Xbox is heading thanks to Microsoft's decision making? So yeah, it is not looking good for Xbox or Microsoft in this case, or anyone involved, except for the shareholders and the CEOs. Anyway, let's go on to the first idea that I have. So the first benefit that I see is that they will properly price the games moving forward. And if you know anything about Nintendo, they don't give out discounts on their games unless it's in a bundle. So that price will stick no matter what. There will be some exceptions, but mostly Nintendo games don't get discounts. Only the ones that aren't made by Nintendo. Let's take an example of the recent Pokemon game. This will all be in Canadian dollars, so just convert it in your own local currency. Also, I will not be including taxes because it's different on different provinces or states and different countries. For the Switch 2, it costs $100 for the base game and $40 for the DLC. So it totals to $140, and if you buy it for the Switch 1, it is just $10 off for the base game, totaling $130. Which, by the way, they bump up the original Switch 1 price, at least for the OLED version if I recall correctly, so thanks a lot Nintendo. Now if you look at Pocket Pair, which by the way, if we're excluding the 25% discount that is going on right now, is on $39. That is just the price of the DLC, and it has more content and will have more collaborations in the future. So in order to compete with palworld, they need to either drop the price or provide enough content or value that would justify the price, which is exactly the same rationale that is being used for GTA 6 right about now. And if you think that that's not gonna happen, I would like to present to you Battlefield 6. Battlefield 6 is essentially the game where EA finally listened to the consumer, you know, the people buying their products. And guess where it is standing on an all-time high? And do remember, Battlefield and Call of Duty have an eternal rivalry with one another, which is also another Thanos thing if you look into the developer and his history with both games. Anyway, Battlefield 6 is currently curb stomping Call of Duty, even Call of Duty Black Ops 7, which hasn't even been out yet. Maybe in a couple of days time I will eat my own words. But right now, people aren't even looking at Call of Duty. And it is because of Battlefield 6 and their current success that forced Activision Blizzard to rethink their whole idea with Call of Duty. It is only now where they decided to remove skill-based matchmaking because Battlefield removed it, and they're doing so much better without it. Even though the community, the Call of Duty community, have been begging for it for years at this point. Unfortunately for Activision, that ship has already sailed. Nobody cares at this point. That ship has already sailed. I don't know about you, but Nintendo has a shot still to fix everything, so long as they stop putting money into lawyers and put it into the games themselves. The second benefit, this would force Game Freak to stop sitting on their laurels and actually make something new and innovative, because I don't want the next Pokemon to quite literally be so bland that it's just a chair, a wooden chair with eyes and a mouth, or any other office furniture that would get the same Pokemon treatment. I mean, if I recall correctly, there is a bag full of trash that they turned into a Pokemon. And even if we say that that is still creative, just look at Mega Starmie in the recent Pokemon game. They just literally extruded the legs. They just extended the bottom two of the starfish and turned it into legs. How lazy can you be? By the way, the memes about this is actually really great. And I think this is my favorite one. They literally just cropped out Patrick's top half and they just kept the legs, like the stripper legs, and then just pasted on Starmie and call it a day. That's actually my favorite. And you can't exactly expect me to believe that there is no way that they can creatively make Starmie in their Mega Evolution version, because this fellow right here created this. I mean, look look at that. That looks cool. That looks like something you would see in space. And it kind of fits the vibe, don't you think? I mean, if I were the designer, I would rather choose this over this. And again, the character is simple. How they made it is simple. You can still see that this is Stormy. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it that I can remember. I know there's gonna be more, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna cut it here. Also, I don't shit on Nintendo or Pokemon just because it is the thing to do right now. I shit on them as I shit on Microsoft for their anti-consumer practices and forcing people to upgrade to Windows 11 and the Activision stuff. So pretty much Nintendo is doing the same kind of things as Microsoft is doing. That's why I'm shitting on them. As a matter of fact, Pokemon was my first digital game that I played in the Game Boy. It's mostly in the emulated version because I couldn't afford to buy the Game Boy. I was only able to borrow it. And when I was able to buy a console, my very first console was the Nintendo DS. And yes, I know it is handheld, not an actual console, but it's called a handheld console, so bite me. And it is with that console that introduced me to games like Ace Attorney, Super Mario, which I only found out then that my parents actually played Super Mario on the SNES, but mostly the arcade version. And when we were able to, we purchased the SNES version but for the DS. And my all-time favorite, Harvest Moon. I love Harvest Moon, especially the one made in the Game Boy Advance. I love it. Also, speaking of Harvest Moon, Nintendo is trying to get into that kind of market as well, you know, the market that is filled with Stardew Valley and such. I think they're called cozy farming games, which I am not going to be buying because it is from Game Freak again, and also because I don't own a Switch and I don't think I will be buying one anytime soon. But guess who also is making that type of game? That's right, it's Pocket Pair, and they're trying to make Pal Farm. And since it's gonna be on Steam and I'm mostly on PC, I will be buying it, especially if the game is remote play compatible. That means I can just play it on my phone. So pretty much my point being is that I also consume Nintendo products, and I would probably buy the older consoles because I would love to relive the childhood I never would have gotten, because we didn't have that much money back then. I mean, even more so now because with the whole economy is going, but I digress. And yeah, so before this gets any more longer than I want it to be, let's cut it off here. So if you made it this far, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Also, I may make another video, sort of like a part 2 to this one, hopefully a little bit shorter, but that is dependent on what I will see in the comment section, if there are any people who are gonna be commenting this, and the topic for that video will also be based on that. So don't be shy, comment what you think, and I'll probably discuss about this either in the comment section or I'll make a video about it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video, do consider dropping down a like, comment, share, all that good stuff, and maybe consider subscribing to the channel. And while you wait, may I suggest you my other videos as well. Again, thank you, and I hope to see you guys next time.